Now you're recording.
Okay, so what do you want to
So what did you do?
do? Okay, so today is a big event for Local 2375. We're here at the San Pedro Angels Gate Cultural Center. And today the big event is for the families of the local, the Pile Driver Bridge Wharf at dock builders located in Wilmington, California. We're actually a local that was started in 1904. We were part of Pile Drivers Iron Workers Local 51, and we were grandfathered into the UBC in 1920, actually 1919, as part of the United Brother Carpenters. And 30 members of that Local 51 were the original founding members. Now, my name is Bill Myers, now that you've heard all that. I'm a 44-year member of the Pile Drivers. I never started out to be a pile driver. Actually, I have an education background. I went to go to college. So I started out from high school trying to figure out how to make money so I didn't have to borrow money from the Bank of America. So my first job actually was, I became a laborer. Worked with pile drivers and carpenters. Ended up earning enough money to go back and forth to several colleges. Ended up in the military, came out of the military, out of the Marine Corps, and started my construction career basically because I could make more money than actually being a white-collar person. So in the process of doing that, I started out as a carpenter apprentice, became a pile driver by proxy, by what they call challenging the test. So I challenged the journeyman test, passed it, and ended up eventually by becoming, over a period of time, a journeyman, foreman, field superintendent. Worked as a pile driver, business agent for about 14 years. Served as a local union president for about 14 years. You might say what I am is a pile emeritus. So I'm retired in 2006. Do a lot of other things. I'm still a college student in photography and the arts. So did I like being a pile driver? I was really there by default more than by design. Although my brother and my father and several uncles, so I'm like a third, fourth generation pile driver. The history of the pile drivers goes back research-wise about 3,000 years. So it's an ancient craft and trade. So one of the things I can tell you is it's a risky business. It's tiring, exhausting, long hours. You work in all kinds of weather. And you're probably noted as a craft by our hard hats. And surprisingly, what I found out as I worked with people over the years, a lot of college people, 2, 3, 4 years of college, are working as tradesmen. So we're really problem solvers. And that's what you do in life, is do a lot of problem solving. Am I actually supposed to tell you? I have no idea.
I have a question for you, and I've been wondering about this. I'm assuming this was a dangerous job.
Very
and then how did safety change from when you started in the business to now? Is safety better? Is there more concern? Has it helped?
Safety is historically, I think, just a matter of survival. It's what is driven by the market, by insurance. Not, safety's never been something of necessity. Let me give you an example. I worked on the Cabrillo Pier down here in San Pedro, and when you were putting on the collars, that's on the pilot, they're wooden collars. It's really involved thing. I don't want to have to explain what a collar is, but it's a way to hold up what they call stay lap. It's a substructure.
Okay.
A dock is nothing more than a jello mold, like a bridge, but it's a bridge in the water versus a bridge on land. Okay. But one of the things about safety is that you're now required, if you're working in and around water, to wear a life vest. And they have all kinds of things about it. If chemicals become spilled in the water. You have procedures to clean up the environment. Let's say this is probably 1963 or 4, Cabrillo, I think, was built. We worked on wooden rafts with these colors. And what you have is you wear a tool belt, basically, probably loaded up with washers and nuts and bolts. You have a big spud wrench that weighs about 6 or 7 pounds. You have a hard hat. And the boats would run around, you know, and create waves. And not to make light of this, but one time a speedboat came by just as I don't know, as a lark on their part. Hit this raft, and I fell in the water, and I did not have a belt on. The guy I was working with, I'm rather small in stature. At the time, I had like 18-inch neck and big bicep, and I was just a kid. But the guy I was working with was about 6'2", and for me, he was an old man. He was in his 30s. But he had hands like dish pans, if you can imagine. Big, burly guy. So when I fell in the water, I had all this weight. I went down into the water, came up like a cork, and this guy just reached down with his hands and jerked me out of the water, picked me up, and set me on the dock. And I was just like, you know, from Jamaican impression, a wet dog. I was spitting and spewing, and I had water in my bags and everything. But no, safety's changed a lot. There's all kinds of requirements about safety glasses, life vests, and procedures for tying off, and what you can and can't do. It sort of gets in the way sometimes of doing the thing, but it's all about trying to survive and keep workers safe. Typically, it's been like when I first time I worked up high, this is for reference to safety. You never were tied off. The first time I was up like 110 feet up in the air, walking at 12-inch beam, laying the streamers, just walked across the beam, and the rule of thumb was, if you can't handle it, it's too bad you fired. That's the way it worked. That's the same way with
that was
iron
safety
workers.
then?
Well, you know, I don't know if you've ever watched iron workers work, it's a little different.
Yeah.
But then the guys working on the Golden Gate Bridge, I mean, they had safety nets. People still fell. If you didn't have the internal stamina to deal with the stress and the fear, it wasn't the job. So, it's like anything else. I used to think it was more dangerous driving back and forth from work with drivers on the freeway than I thought it was to work on a job. But there are lots of people. Now today, you know, my thing was when I was a field superintendent or a foreman, I would never ask anybody to do something I wouldn't. I couldn't. You know, and that changed as I got older. So I'm now 73. So I started this by accident more like when I was 19, worked off and on over the years to make money, and then realized I actually had to stay in construction to pay off some of my college debts. You know, because that's obviously today.
Yeah.
And I actually, the people, the population, the community that you work in is as diversified as whether you're working as a doctor or working in a white-collar job or any job. You have good people and bad people, people that are loyal and you can trust, people that you basically, to say this brutally, wouldn't turn your back on, you couldn't trust if you could pick them up. But it's like anything else. They're really bright people, honest people. Some people are, as far as I'm concerned, dishonest. But that's a matter of choice. You know, you find out. So it doesn't matter. Every walk of life. So that's something you have to learn. Maybe if you grow up on, you know, I kind of grew up in the east side of Wilmington, kind of as a street kid maybe, but not as a street kid, but you learn all these different ways. The one thing you discover is no one issues you a book on how to survive in the real world or how to deal with people, and even your parents. You used to get some really good advice from some of these guys. I thought were sort of like old, you know, when you're young, you see people old. But I used to listen to the stories they would tell. One of the things that I never was smart enough to understand at the time was to record what you're doing now about these stories that we would hear from older guys about what happened in the past, stories about the membership. You know, I would call them war stories. And you think, I probably can't say this on the tape.
Well, they can edit it out.
You can edit it.
Well, they can.
Well, there used to be a saying is that every pile driver story starts with, "This ain't no shit." And I actually wrote that in a storyline for an editorial piece, and they actually did edit that out. But it really is, the beginning of the conversation was, "This ain't no shit," and they would go on with this thing. Some of it was mixed with half truth, some of it was just sheer malarkey. And there's all kinds of stories. There's a rumor in the building when they moved from San Pedro to Wilmington. They bought what they called a mortuary building that had 3 floors. It had a basement, a bottom, first floor, and a second floor. And when they decided, several years later, they decided to build a new building next to it because the other one was made out of brick. It was kind of condemned. The city said, you got to get out of this brick building. So one of the stories, and I'm the kind of an archivist. I've been taking photographs of this membership for over 25 years. But one of the stories I heard when I was like 19 and 21 was that when they built the building, they had to move all these old records and stuff to the new building. And they had the safe built, and they were moving the stuff, and they came over and they said, "What are we going to do with all this stuff?" And I guess this, and I've heard this repeated by several people, was that they didn't know what to do with the records. So the one pile, and that's a kind of an acronym for, and that's kind of a slang term, pile drivers. Well, we got a coffin down in the embalming room. Let's just take all the stuff. This is kind of humor. Take all the records and put them in the casket, and we'll just bury the whole thing. Because that's what they did. So what they did was they put all these old ancient records, supposedly. I wasn't there. This is a story. But it's been confirmed by a half a dozen people that I know. They put all these old records and whatever, which I'd like to dig up, and put it in the casket, closed the casket, left it downstairs in the basement, and underneath the stairs, apparently, according to this story. And then they backfilled it with all kinds of debris, with asphalt and bricks and dirt and stuff, and then they paved it over. So we had this tomb, so to speak, in the basement, in our parking lot. And since I'm an archivist, and in 2004 I was president. In 2004 we were technically 100 years old as a local membership. And I helped start the Archive History Preservation, the members did, so they taxed themselves. So one of the things I started thinking about was, maybe we should dig up the parking lot and find out if that really is true, but I don't think we're ever going to do that. Maybe some archaeologists will do that. But,
Wonderful.
so when you talk to pile drivers, there goes Larry. He's probably got all kinds of interesting stories. All these guys, if you can get them to talk, have things that they can tell you about that may be private. They're always concerned about that. Because like I said, they'll say some stuff to you privately, put it on tape. But I have this really terrible attitude. I don't care what I don't care what your opinion is. I'm going to say it. If you like it, that's fine. If you don't like it, then deal with it. And that's kind of a survival kind of thing. So I don't know how long you want to make this interview. So, folks, I can tell you it's been a rough thing. I finally made it. I never thought. I was almost killed 3 or 4 times. But really appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos and the other videos that may come by. And it's an interesting trade. And we're all glad that we survived the winter and the summer. Sayonara.
Yeah.